But before I get to that, I was thinking, all right, well, another day and it looks like we lost another cauliflower. Might be a rabbit eating that. So it's been a little rainy the last few days. I haven't even had to put my drip irrigation on, though I've been meaning to. But I'm starting to think that my snapdragon here is suffering from early blight or a similar thing. The leaves kind of look a little moldy. And since I have a ton of this stuff growing that I didn't expect, I think I'm just gonna cut it back a little bit. So all these ones that are hanging over this way, just cutting these back. And while I've got the garden shears out, I've got a couple more tasks that I have to do that involve cutting. So I never really finished putting in this row of the landscape fabric, and that's because there's a drip irrigation line that was gonna get covered by it. So I was thinking about moving it, but now I've kind of realized that I'm running out of garden space. There's plenty of garden to go around right under that. And why not try to just cram some more garden space in right here? So that'll give me more space to plant and I won't have to move that irrigation line. But before I do that, I just wanted to talk about something that I found today that makes me really, really excited. So right here, for the first time since I planted these kiwis, which it's been about 5 years since I had them and 4 years since I planted them, the kiwi is finally producing fruit. And these are hardy kiwis, so they should be about grape sized, and I should be able to just straight up eat them. Shouldn't have to like remove skin or anything like that. And if everything goes well, I should have a really big harvest around September. But there's also another little surprise here. There's another use for this kiwi plant, and I just found this today also. So it's been a really interesting day. So I don't want to get too close because I don't want to disturb the bird, but there's a bird nest up in the kiwi, and that bird has got some eggs in there. I've only had a quick glimpse at that bird so far. It looked a little bit like a cardinal, and it looked a little bit like a house finch. So I'm not entirely sure yet, but it's really exciting to see a bird nest with eggs in the kiwi, something that I planted there, creating habitat for wildlife. And while I'm saying that, let me just mention that I actually have 2 more kiwis on the other side of my trellis. I don't think there's a bird nest up in this one yet, but I did just see with this kiwi, we have also some fruits or some flowers forming. And I wasn't expecting that because this kiwi was planted a little bit later. And I'm by no means an expert, but when it comes to kiwis, you do need to have a male kiwi and a female kiwi. And they say that one male kiwi is enough to pollinate multiple female kiwis. And on each side of my trellis, I have a male and a female just because I bought them as a pack. I've been waiting for this for a long time, so I'm really excited to see that. And speaking of adding fruit to the garden, right here behind me, you might be able to see this. These are all peaches right here. And this tree is just loaded with peaches. And just as exciting, I have a different peach tree right here, and this is the first year that this one has actually formed peaches. So you can see that those peaches are a little small right now, but those will grow throughout the summer, and I'm probably expecting to have too many peaches pretty soon. So not only are those peaches going off, but right in between them is a nectarine. And I planted this nectarine about 3 years ago, and you can see it's already producing some fruit. So it seems like it's gonna be a big year for stone fruit. And not only that, but I've got all of the kiwis over there, and don't forget the strawberries. So it's gonna be a good time. I don't usually show moths, but since it's part of the garden here, I wanna show you that this is what I believe to be a pink maple moth. It's got kind of a fuzzy head there. I'm always excited to see something I haven't seen before, especially if it's not invasive and trying to take over my garden. that's cut, I've got an extra row to plant in. And I'll say that it's not the prettiest row that I have. It definitely narrows as you get down here, but that's okay because I'm only gonna plant one plant every square foot down this way. And I was thinking of doing peppers in this row because they don't get too tall and they should have a good mix of sun and shade, because I've got the new shade fabric up here and the sun hits them from out there. But anyways, I had another task to do with these garden shears and it's not cutting my hair off. And it's another plan to stop the brassica massacre that seems to be happening in my garden this year. And that's some mesh netting. Mesh netting. That's some mesh netting. And that's some mesh netting. And say mesh netting 10 times fast and you'll start to forget who you are. So this mesh netting right here, this is actually pretty cheap. It's 30 feet long, 10 feet wide. And there's 2 of them in this pack right here. And this stuff is pretty simple, but it can be a little frustrating setting it up. All you really have to do is open it up, spread out the netting, figure out which way is the long way, which way is the wide way, put it over your row, and put something down to cover it. And my trick is usually just to put T-posts down. So I'm gonna go ahead right now and get this set up real fast. So as you can see, I've got the mesh netting now covering all of my brassicas, and that really didn't take too long. As long as you're paying attention to the dimensions of the netting and you're thinking about your row size, it's really not that difficult, and you can just go ahead and cut that to size. So I ran this row the long way. This is 10 feet wide across, which is nice because the plants will grow up and you're gonna need that extra length on the sides. And then I cut the netting at the very end, right down there. I ran the rest of what I have all the way down to about there. And then I opened up the second pack and I used about, we'll say 8 feet right here, which means I should still have about 22 feet left. And that's helpful because what do you know? We've got a pepper missing already. So I was just taking a look at all the peppers that I transplanted into here just a few days ago, when suddenly I got down to here and what do you know? The pepper has gone missing. And I can tell that it was a poblano because we got the marker here. So we're gonna go ahead, put another poblano right back in that spot, and then we're gonna cover it up with the rest of that netting. And if there's one big downside to the mesh netting, it's that your garden no longer looks like a garden. It kind of looks like it was taken over by spider mites or maybe a light covering of snow in the middle of spring. So it kind of kills the aesthetic. That's right, horse. But it at least does help prevent pests. And once again, this is why we start plenty of extra plants, because we just have to look at that missing pepper as garden tribute. So that was a free one for the rabbit. It wasn't so spicy, so he kind of lucked out, and we're not gonna give up any more peppers, I don't think. And before I cover up the row, I just wanted to show you how these onions are looking. As you can see, the roots look pretty healthy. I'm kind of aggressive when it comes to taking onions out of the tray, just because there's so many. If they're ready to fall out, I just turn the thing over, slap it a couple times on the back, and hopefully they pop out. But as I was doing that, I remembered that there's more than one type of onion in there. This one right here looks like a shallot because of the pink purplish base of this. So overall, I'm really happy with the germination rate of those seeds. It seems like I got way more than I expected out of that. I'm just gonna put a bunch more onions in real quick and cover it up because I don't plan on getting in there anytime soon. All right, well, just like that, we've got all of our peppers covered, and we did a few more onions as well. But I've got a whole lot more planting to do, so stick around. And if you've enjoyed watching the video to this point, could you do me just one favor? Tap the like button. It makes a big difference for the video and motivates me to keep making these garden videos. And if you think you might want to watch more videos like this, please tap the subscribe button, and I'll make more videos for you. So go ahead and tap that button, and I'll contemplate the row here. The button is up there. It's like to the top right, I think. If you haven't subscribed and you haven't found that button, please stop watching the video. You don't deserve it. If you didn't tap the button, go ahead and close the video. I don't want you on the channel. If you're already subscribed, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't tapped that button already and you watch this far, why can't you just tap the button? Let's keep watching, and let's head to the next day. So this is what mid-May garden exhaustion looks like. Oh, and do I need a pick-me-up right now? So I don't usually just come out and sit in the middle of a garden row like this, but I have to say that the view from right here really isn't that bad. Before I came outside today, I was just thinking about whether or not it's gonna be warm enough this week for all of the plants that I'm about to plant today. All I could think about was that there's a cold spell coming in this week with temps in the low 40s, and I'm here doing all this work to plant tomatoes and peppers, and considering planting some of my gourds like watermelon and cucumber today. And just the thought of that can be exhausting. So we have some hawks that are circling all the way up there. Just taking a look at this corner right here. This might be the nicest that's gonna look all year. Just look at how nice that is. We've got the peach tree up in the front. The ferns have really grown in the last week. We've got a birdhouse that's kind of hiding right behind, but when the wind blows you can see it perfectly, just like that. To the right we've got the asparagus, which is now turned into an asparagus forest, and behind that there's a rhododendron that's flowering with those pink flowers, and then we've got the nice tall tree right behind that. And to the right we've got what I call my strawberry fortress, and we've got all of the strawberries overflowing out front with the chives right over there. We have all of the sage right here in front of us, and the onion bunches. And in the back corner you can see that tall white flower is a rhubarb plant right there. And it may be hard to see from here, but I mowed the grass yesterday behind that, so we've got nice, clean, freshly cut grass. And right down in here in front of me, these are all the hot peppers that I covered yesterday towards the end of the day last night. Put this mesh netting over. You can see all of the onions in there. And the soil is a little dry, but that's okay. The weather's gonna be a little chilly for the next few days, but it's also gonna have a little bit of rain. So I'm not sure that I'm gonna water those in. I think the soil might already be a little bit wet underneath that top layer. And I think the rain coming in this week is probably gonna be enough to water all of these plants. And it's a little windy today. I seem to have more windy days than non-windy days around here. And then over my right shoulder, we have onions that were planted last year. And you can see that they are almost ready to go to flower. So we've got some onions, we've got some tomatoes. There's a few mixed carrots and certainly a few weeds in here. but we will take care of those weeds. And if you look right in the corner at 5 of these posts, you'll see the fava beans that I planted. They seem to be doing well enough. So in summary, gardening can be exhausting, but it can also be relaxing. And any day that you feel too exhausted or maybe too stressed to come out and garden, just come out and sit. Well, now that I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get to planting. So I'm gonna start with some more tomatoes today, and I'm actually not sure which ones that I'm gonna plant right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a look, decide which of these look the best to me and which are my favorite. And then I'm gonna write out some stakes, and then I'm gonna line up the stakes and then plant these tomatoes. So let's do it. All right, so I just finished planting another 12 tomatoes, and I have to say that after looking at how all of the tomatoes are doing, the San Marzano tomatoes, the ones that I bought new seeds from Johnny's for this year, and the only new seeds I have for this year, those ones really seem to be doing the best. So there's definitely something to be said about new seeds and germination and just healthier plants. But when I look at the tray, it feels like I still have a lot of tomatoes left to plant. And to be honest, I'm not sure that I'm gonna plant most of these. A lot of these are gonna be treated as backups. And if some of the other ones die, they'll go in their spot. And otherwise, I don't know. Maybe we'll find a place for them. It's really hard to just leave them like this and let them die. Well, it's almost too cold for me. I have shorts on right now and a sweatshirt, but I am starting to feel the wind chill here. I'm starting to also think that if it's too cold for me to be out here with a sweatshirt on, that it's probably too cold for the peppers to be out here. And in particular, I'm starting to think that maybe planting my hot peppers first was a little bit of a mistake, but I've got a backup plan for that. So right here, I have a plastic tunnel, and typically you would put this over crops when you're trying to extend the season, whether it's before or after. But I've had this for a few years now, and I was very close to just getting rid of it because I really haven't had a need for it. But now that it's getting kind of cold in late May, I feel like this might be a good temporary solution to just protect the peppers. that was actually really easy to set up. So these metal hoops that are inside the plastic already, they're sharp enough to just go directly into the ground, and I don't feel like it's gonna blow away. And at the end of each hoop, there's a drawstring, just like there would be on a sweatshirt, that you can tighten that to seal off the end of it. And since there's nothing else that I really need to cover with the mesh netting, at least not today, I decided to just cover that back over, and it came out pretty good. So now my peppers are protected from the elements in there, but every time you do something like this, there's always another thing to consider. And in this case, it's that the dome there is going to create somewhat of a greenhouse effect. So the small plastic tunnel could actually heat up to the point where those plants are getting too much heat and start to wilt. And since they haven't received a ton of water, they might actually dry out in the middle of this cold, windy, wet spell. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on them, but that feels a lot better than just leaving them out here in this cold, windy weather. So we got some yellow iris that flowered recently. Have one of the violet or purple ones over here. So, we got something to talk about. It is cold. It feels like early spring, but it's May 21st. It's almost Memorial Day, and I've got my heavy sweatshirt on today. And if I'm this cold, I'll tell you that those peppers and tomatoes, they are not gonna like this weather. So while we have our hot peppers in this easy tunnel here, and I think they're doing pretty well so far, I have a whole lot of tomatoes down this stretch right here, and I don't think they're gonna be too happy with how the temperature is right now and tonight and tomorrow. It's 52 degrees right now, and that's the high for the day. I think tonight it's gonna be around 46, but it's also gonna be a little windy and there might be some rain. It's kind of a recipe for disaster when it comes to tomatoes and peppers. And just to add to that, today's not even the coldest day. It's gonna be even colder tomorrow and tomorrow night. But I figured it would be a lot easier to come out here and just take 30 minutes to try to cover my plants, and that's gotta be a lot easier than having them die and having to reseed everything. So the good news is that I've got one more of these easy tunnels right here. And I just realized the ground is wet, so now I'm a little bit wet. So I will be using this here easy tunnel. It's pretty lightweight, so we're gonna get this set up, but that's not gonna cover all the tomatoes, but I do have another plan for those, and it's something that I've never done before. When I start seeds every year, I start them in 10 by 20 trays, and I put these covers on the top, and these are effectively like small greenhouse dome type covers. I think that putting these on top of the plants is going to be better than not doing it. Now, I will say that everything that I'm using right now is in the category of overpriced garden items. Right here, these are really overpriced. And it's the same thing with that easy tunnel, and I don't know, it might be worth it. If this plastic and tunnel does its job and it lasts for a few years, then I could justify that price. But ultimately, it's not a lot of material, so the actual cost basis, well, they must be making a killing on this. Oh yeah. Now I'm pretty happy. Look at that. This is easier than I thought it was going to be. I was a little bit worried that I was going to have to find something to weigh these down, and I might still. But the stakes actually help to keep this in place. Look at that. The Roma tomato collection right there. These ones are a little far apart. I think I just have to move the stake. We'll move it forward a little bit. And the only thing that I'm trying not to do is to take the tray and slice through the tomato stem at the bottom, which I don't think is going to happen. But if you have it sideways somehow, the edges of these trays can be a little sharp at the bottom. So it may not be the prettiest thing that I've ever done in the garden, but I'm actually feeling really good about that. But I will say that this weather is going to be good for some of the other plants. The broccoli, the cauliflower, they will really appreciate this weather. It seems to me that they are doing better because they're still here. You know that we had a problem with them disappearing, and since I put up the screen, I'm seeing that they're almost all here. Although at the end of the row here, it looks like, because I didn't weigh these down with anything, that these ones are uncovered a bit. So I typically keep extra paver stones around in the garden because when it gets to being a little bit later in the season, when plants are everywhere, it's nice that you have one spot where you can safely step and not crush something that you might care about. So that should keep the netting down, hopefully over here. It's May 21st, and I think that summer is going to be almost exactly 1 month from today. It's kind of crazy to think about, considering how cold it is outside right now. So it looks like most of the tomatoes in this one are doing pretty well. One of those is falling over a little bit in the back, but it's because I took the stakes out in order to put the easy tunnel down. And the temperature inside that, when you put your hand inside, it feels much warmer than the outside air. So I think they're doing their job. And let's take a look at how these peppers are doing. And as we're about to take a look, looks like some of these onions that we just planted are already starting to bulb up a little bit down there. So everything inside there is looking pretty good for now. My only concern is that even though we've gotten a lot of rainfall, the tunnel is preventing water from landing on the peppers and the tomatoes. But at the same time, I think the surrounding soil is going to be saturated to the point where they're still going to be able to get that water. And then down in this section right here, it looks like most of my tomatoes, they're actually doing pretty good. So let's just take a quick look at this one right here. And it looks like it's still green, and there's some onions in that one, but the tomatoes are still doing good. You can see that the leaves are upright towards the top of the dome. Let's pick another random one. And I can actually feel a little bit of a temperature difference when I pick up those domes too. So the limited sunlight that we've gotten throughout the day seems to have been enough to keep a little bit of heat trapped in there. And that's really just the greenhouse effect. And just a few minutes ago, right at the end of the tomatoes, I decided to plant a couple things. So it'll be a little hard to tell what they are from here, but if we look closely here, this is actually chamomile. And the reason why I planted these now is that they were starting to yellow out. So I figured I would just go ahead and plant 3 of the chamomile here and not worry about uppotting them. And then over here in the back, if you want to take a guess at what these are, 3, 2, 1, it's fennel. So these are all fennel right here, and as you can see, these are also starting to yellow out a little bit because I had planted these a little too early. So one of the tricky things about starting seeds indoors is that you really have to nail the timing if you want to be able to plant them in the garden at the right time. And there's a lot involved, and even if you've done it for a few years, you sometimes make small mistakes that end up costing big. And anyways, so I was just taking a quick look at how these broccoli and cauliflower are doing. And at this point, most of these have been in the ground for over 2 weeks. And I can officially say that they're growing because they are much bigger than the ones that are still left in the trays. Just take a look at how nice this one's doing. It has minimal leaf damage, maybe a little bit before I added the screen here, but it's doing well. This one back here, also doing pretty well. And if I look down the line, not all of them, but a lot of them are doing pretty well here. And you can really start to see the difference when you take a look at some of the leftovers that I have in the tray here, and then compare them to the ones in the ground here. So you can see right here, this is a bit smaller than this one. This one probably spent about a week establishing roots, and now it's starting to put that energy into the leaves. But as you may know, I added this shade cloth to the garden this year, and that's a new addition for this year. And it does seem like one of the plants in here is taking a hit, and that would be the peas. And even though it looks like these are doing okay, and they're not doing terrible, you can see right here we've got quite a bit of greenery. This time of year, they're normally a little bit further along. Well, since that garden row is getting quite a bit of shade, and the broccoli and cauliflower that I have left in these plugs, they're probably going to be in a use it or lose it situation. I think what I'm going to do is just tightly plant all of those in here, and if they grow, I'm just going to be using them for greens similar to lettuces. And since it's already 8 p.m. and I probably only have 10 minutes of light left, I'm going to go ahead and get those planted real quick. right, so that didn't take too long. And on the bright side, I have one less tray to have to manage now. And when you're starting so many plants, having one less tray is actually a big deal. It just means one less thing to worry about drying out, one less thing to worry about having to water, and just one less thing to think about. So they're all in there now, and they're very loosely marked. I put markers as close as I could to where I was doing the groupings. But this last section, I actually didn't know what it was. And I put the Fujiyama in there just because it was the last stake I had, but I'm not convinced that's actually what it is. So this area is going to be a little bit of a grab bag later. And with that, my garden goal for today is done, and there's very little light left. So I just barely got that off. But we'll be out here tomorrow. All right, well, today's Memorial Day, so it's been about 5 days since I put those covers on. So why don't we take those covers off now and see what they look like. From what I can see, they're looking pretty good overall. I think they've held up to the temperatures with just those covers. And it's certainly something that I'll be using more of in the future if I have more days like this. So over the last couple days, the strawberries have been turning red. They've been ripening up and they are ready to pick now. And I already have a lot of strawberries just in my pathway alone. And these were all created by runners. I didn't even plant. And now I've just got a whole bunch of strawberries in the middle of the path here. So if the frogs weren't bad enough, now I have another reason to watch where I step. Before today is over, I really need to plant this one thing. And I've been thinking about starting this for weeks now, and I'm not sure why I haven't. So without further ado, the thing that I really have to plant today is corn. And corn is supposed to be knee-high by the 4th of July, and today it is May 26th. So that means that I have about 5 weeks to get this stuff knee-high. And I really have 2 ways that I could choose to grow corn this year. Number one, it's a way that I've thought about doing in the past, but I never really wanted to do it. And that's starting corn indoors. It seems a little counterintuitive, but it can be done. And a lot of people do buy corn and transplant it. However, I would have to put together more potting soil, then seed all the trays, then let it grow, then start to acclimate it outside as it's growing, and then transplant it. And that just seems like a lot of work, let's be honest. But the second way is gonna be a lot easier, and that would be through direct seeding. So I think what I'm gonna do is use row 3. This is the row that has peppers up here in the front, but right down here, right at the end, there's not too much going on just yet. And that spot gets a good amount of sun every day, so that's looking like some prime real estate for the corn. So with my seeding square, I'm gonna be using the blue circles. You can see that there's 4 of those in this 1 square foot. There are quite a few other volunteer plants in here that I'm gonna work around to some extent. There's a garlic, and that's my lone garlic this year, so I won't be moving that. And I just weeded out a carrot. That might be the world's smallest carrot right there. Smells good though. Carrots always smell good to me. my seeding square, it looks like I can do about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that kind of just gave me an idea. I think I'm just gonna create the prints with the square and then just pop the seeds in. So I'm gonna take my poking device, in this case it's just a Sharpie, because that's what I use for my plant labels. And I'm gonna go ahead and mark 1, 2, 3, 4. But because last year I had a difficult time with germination, I think I'm gonna go ahead and plant twice as much as I need. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and make 8 holes in the dirt here. All right, well, now that you can see how I'm planting the corn, I'm gonna go ahead and do this quickly. All right, well, that was easy, and that was just a quicker way to use the seed square. I decided to use popsicle sticks to mark where each one of the squares is. I just thought it would be helpful in the future to know where exactly the center is. And in total, I did 10 down there, 5 on each side, and then on the other side of the sage, right in here, I did another 6. And if everything goes to plan, that should be a total of 64 corn plants, and that should be more than enough corn for, well, for me to eat. So call me crazy, but when I was walking back from the pond, I think I could smell the smokiness of some of these peppers. There's a real nice smokiness that some of these hot peppers give off when you're just walking by them. And I wasn't planning on doing this before, but I think I might just go ahead and put the easy tunnel back over them. That should hopefully help to protect most of these peppers.